Good afternoon. I have had a look at this year's high-level Ag Science paper, and I'm pleased to say that my first impressions are not too bad. This paper, I feel, has a kind of strange appearance that some of you might be unfamiliar with. You will, of course, have gone over past paper questions in your revision. You'll have looked over last year's paper, the year before, and so on. And so when you see some of the questions in this paper, you might be thinking, I have not seen questions quite like this before. But hopefully, once you got into it, you will be pleased to find out that actually the fundamental material is stuff that you should hopefully be very comfortable with. We had a solid coverage of the fundamentals on both the short and the long questions here. So we've had our beef enterprises, our dairy. We've had experiment questions, which is fantastic. Last year's paper, as you may be aware, was light on the experiments that you guys will have studied, your SPAs, whereas this year we had 3 questions where you had to give your description supported with a diagram for your SPAs. So those are nice, comfortable questions, accessible questions for you guys to get a start with. So I was pleased to see those in here. Overall, as you know, you have a lot of choice on this exam, and I was really pleased to see that those questions that had choice had good options. We never had 2 very difficult options back to back. There was always one that was slightly more favorable depending on what you have studied. And as always, you know, if you come up against something hard, I hope that you used your choice well and you just declined to tackle those very difficult questions. And you have enough choice to find yourself, every student should have been able to find a viable route through the questions with your choice, which is great. I was really pleased to see that. In terms of these new style of questions, what am I talking about? Well, question 8 may have been a slightly tricky one for you guys. That is a short answer question, and yet it was a full side of a page, one big box, which we don't really see in the short questions. And that must have been quite tricky for you guys. And so very well done if you tackled that question. It was about the nitrogen cycle. It didn't tell you how many points you needed to write, and so it's really easy to get lost. But just as a bit of reassurance for you guys, if you did tackle that question, you know, no one can tell you at this stage how many answers you needed to put in that box. That will be taken care of at the marking conference when the reviewers look at these papers and they see the pool of answers that you guys gave. But as long as you gave it your best shot, it would have been a question that was good for people that have a biology subject choice as well, because there's a bit of overlap on the nitrogen cycle. And so hopefully that one, even though it was a slightly odd presentation, if you did tackle it, you should have had enough to say to fill that box. Question 12 on the short questions. Normally we see these short questions on one topic only, and then the next question is a new topic. This was 5 little questions from all over the course. None of them hard, but you would not be expecting to move from dairy to soil to plant physiology. So that may have taken you a second, but hopefully once you looked at it, you realized you did know this, and you will know that. So I'm sure that was fine. We had calculations. Some of them are old friends, food conversion ratio, daily live gain. You may not have been pleased to see them, but hopefully you knew how to work them. You had a couple of calculations that you weren't expected to know. You were given the information, you needed to logic it through. And so hopefully once you took a step back and you looked at them, you found an easy way through those questions as well, okay? What were we missing? What were our big omissions this year? We didn't see any big questions on crops, which I found quite surprising, and you probably did too. We would have expected to see full pages on your crop enterprises, your barley, potatoes, kale, and that was absent. Also, and I'm sorry for you guys that studied for this so hard, there were no diagrams outside of your experiments. So if you learned your reproductive systems, your digestive systems, your soil profiles, your nitrogen cycle, your carbon cycle, they actually weren't asked. And so that was quite a lot of prep that I feel a lot of you guys might have done that you may not have used. However, I do feel that the rest of the paper, even with those omissions, probably spoke very well to the things that you studied and the things that you revised. So overall, not a bad paper, not easy by any means. Very well done to you if you came out of this feeling confident, but there was a lot of choice. There were a lot of good, solid questions grounded in the things that you know. And for those things that maybe you looked at that you had no idea, blackleg, for instance, if you're not familiar, you would not have known, you had enough choice to avoid those. So very well done to everyone that took this paper today. Very well done to everybody on all of your exams so far, and good luck if you have any remaining exams to take.